Welcome to Turning Hard Times into Good Times. I'm your host, Jay Taylor, and I'm speaking to you from New York City on the 16th day of June, 2020. I want to thank each of you for listening to the show, making it one of the more popular shows in the Voice America Business Channel, and I want to invite you to continue sending along your comments, whatever they may be, positive, negative, neutral, whatever. Send them along to questionsfortaylor@gmail.com, questions, the number 4, taylor@gmail.com. And, of course, we want to thank our sponsors for making this show economically viable. Sponsors for today, RN Resources, Great Bear Resources, Benchmark Metals, Hannon Metals, Irving Resources, Novo Resources, and Sitka Gold Corp. And I'm happy to tell you that one of those sponsors will be hearing from Chris Taylor of Great Bear Resources in the second segment of today's show. Before I talk more about today's show, let me remind you that I, along with Eric Coffin and Gwen Preston, will be speaking at the next Virtual Metals Investor Forum, which you can sign up for online. Go to jtaylormedia.com, jaytaylormedia.com, and click on the Metals Investor Forum banner on the right towards the top of the page. All you need to do is give your name and email address, and you can gain access to this virtual program. In my presentation on Thursday, starting at 12 noon Eastern Time, I will talk about how America got to the verge of financial collapse and why owning gold will most likely continue to provide some solace in an otherwise very dark day and future, it seems. We hope and pray not. But the way things are going now with the economy and with the strife in the country, it certainly is not one of the more pleasant times in our history. And so, well, we think there's a spiritual aspect to it as well. But from an earthly point of view, owning real money that can't be created out of thin air by politicians is a very wise thing to do. And that, of course, is a central theme of this show. I've titled today's show, Navigating Troubled Waters with David McAlvany. So David McAlvany will be with me in the second half of today's show, and Chris Taylor, president of Great Bear Resources, will be with me, as I mentioned, just in the second segment. What are the underlying causes of the anger and destruction following the tragic death of George Floyd? Are there factors other than race involved? What can we do personally to build strong, positive relationships with neighbors who may have differing political views and in the process protect our communities against anarchy? We are, it seems, seeing a V-shaped stock market recovery, but how long can that continue when the underlying economy is suffering what most certainly is a major recession, if not a depression? Do we face a danger of rising monetary velocity that leads to rising prices, even as unemployment remains at historically high levels? In other words, stagflation, akin to the 1970s, perhaps? What impact might rising prices have on stocks, bonds, commodities, and precious metals? Might Stephen Roach be right in predicting the dollar's demise and an end of reserve currency status? If so, what impact might that have on the markets? Those and other questions will be posed to David McAlvany in the second half of today's show. Right after our first commercial break in just a few moments, as I mentioned, I'll be talking to Chris Taylor. He's the president of Great Bear Resources. Chris will explain the unbelievable success that Great Bear is having in outlining the discovery of its world-class Dixie Gold project, Dixie Gold deposit for certain, in the Red Lake district of Ontario. The company is putting out one great drill hole after another, it seems, these days. Not only are infill drill holes establishing great mineral continuity, that is gold mineralization, but the deposit is being expanded to depth and with some of the highest grades yet. Moreover, the company has not yet begun to define the limits of this discovery, which I believe will compare with some of the most significant Canadian gold discoveries in recent decades. I am convinced there will be many more exciting gold discoveries. In fact, we're in the midst of some right now in my newsletter, companies that I cover in my newsletter. But the Great Bear Dixie deposits are far and few between. We picked Great Bear up at 46 cents in January 2019. The stock hit $11 today, and there is no reason at this juncture to think it will not continue to rise given the ongoing expansion of the deposit and continuity of high-grade gold mineralization. By the way, given the exciting times in the junior gold space, I suggest that you do owe it to yourself to consider subscribing I know it's self-serving, but I think you do owe it to yourself to consider subscribing to my newsletter, Jay Taylor's Gold, Energy, and Tech Stocks at miningstocks.com. Also would, again, suggest you consider signing up for the Virtual Metals Investor Forum that's going to be held starting at 12 noon this June 18th. That's this coming Thursday. Go to J Taylor Media, just simply give your name and address. Click on the banner there, give your name and address, or name and email address, and you'll have access to this program. There will be a lot of great company stories will be told there, as well as the ideas that both Gwen Preston and Eric Coffin have, I think, that are very much worth listening to as well.